All right. Check to see if we are actually live. I think so. Oh, hold on a second. I have to check. Okay. Whoops. Let's see. Yes, we are live. Okay. On that happy note, we're going to start the class. Okay. We're still here in New Taliban, and we may not be giving class tomorrow online because we're going to be probably at Rath Yatra and a lot of things are going to be going on. Anyway, so let's chant Jai Radha Madhava. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivardhan Hati Gopi Jana Balaba Girivardhan Hati Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhova Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhova Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivardhan Hati Gopi Jana Balaba Girivardhan Hati Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhova Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhova Kunya Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad. Paramahansa Paravidikacharya, also Tara Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace by Chaitanya Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya, Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaid Gadadha, Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopika Panath, Sayam Vakunda, Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Maturanam Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Ivanamaya Ki Jai, Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prastaya Budle, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. So we're reading from the Krishna book, and the 85th chapter of the Krishna book is Spiritual Instructions. So, Om Gana Timadanda Shah Gananjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shigadve Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the darkness, with the torch of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So, anyway, let's continue with the Krishna books. So, here we go, sharing the screen. And chapter 85, Spiritual Instruction for Vasudeva and the Return of 6 Dead Sons of Devaki by Lord Krishna. Very exciting chapter. Okay, let me just get this set up and then we will start. Okay, very good. So, it is a Vedic custom that the junior members of the family should offer respects to the elders every morning. The children or disciples especially should offer their respects to their parents or spiritual master in the morning. In pursuance of this Vedic principle, Lord Krishna and Balaram used to offer their obeisances to their parents, Vasudeva and Devaki. One day, after having returned from the sacrificial performances at court, etc., when Lord Krishna and Balaram went to offer their respects to Vasudeva, Vasudeva took the opportunity to appreciate the exalted position of his 2 sons. Vasudeva had the opportunity to understand the position of Krishna and Balaram from the great sages who had assembled in the arena of the sacrifice. That's the last chapter. Not only did he hear from the sages, but on many occasions he actually experienced that Krishna and Balaram were not ordinary human beings, but were very extraordinary. Thus, he believed the words of the sages that his sons, Krishna and Balaram, were the Supreme Personality of Godhead. With firm faith in his sons, he addressed them thus: "My dear Krishna, you are the Satchidananda Vigraha," that's Brahma Samhita 5.1, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and my dear Balaram, you are Sankarshan, the master of all mystic powers. Therefore, I have now understood that you are eternal. Both of you are transcendental to this material manifestation and to its cause, the Supreme Person, Mahavishnu. You are the original controller of all. You are the resting place of this cosmic manifestation. You are its creator, and you are also its creative ingredients. You are the master of this cosmic manifestation, and actually this manifestation is created for your pastimes only. The different material phases that are manifest from the beginning to the end of the cosmos under different formulas of time are also yourself, because you are both the cause and effect of this manifestation. The two features in this material world, the predominator and predominated, are also you. And you are the supreme transcendental controller who stands above them. Of course, this is a Chincha philosophy, how everything is one and different from Krishna simultaneously, but there's also difference. Therefore, you are beyond the perception of our senses. You are the supreme soul, unborn and unchanging. You are not affected by the 6 kinds of transformations which occur in the material body. What are those transformations? Birth, growth, maintenance, this stability, byproducts means like children, then dwindling means old age, and finally death, death. The wonderful varieties of this material world are also created by you, and you have entered as the super soul into all of them, down to the atom. You are the vital force of all these manifestations and also their supreme cognition. In other words, you are the Kshetragya, the knower of all the different fields of activity. As such, you are the maintainer of everything. The vital force, the life principle in everything, and the creative force derived from it are not acting independently, but are dependent upon you, the Supreme Person behind these forces. Without your will, they cannot work. Material energy has no cognizance, no awareness. It cannot act independently without being agitated by you, because the material nature is dependent upon you. The living entities can only attempt to act, but without your sanction and will, they cannot perform anything or achieve the results they desire. The original energy is only an emanation from you, my dear Lord. The shining of the moon, the heat of the fire, the rays of the sun, the glittering of the stars, and the electric lightning, which are all manifested as very powerful, as well as the gravity of the mountains, and the energy and fragrance of the earth, are all different manifestations of you. The pure taste of water, the water itself, and the vital force which maintains all life are also features of your lordship. My dear Lord, although the forces of the senses, the mental power of thinking, feeling, and willing, and the strength, movement, and growth of the body appear to be performed by different movements of the airs within your body, within the body, they are all ultimately manifestations of your energy. In other words, everything is Krishna's energy. The vast expanse of outer space rests in you. The vibration of the sky, its thunder, the supreme sound, Omkara, and the arrangement of different words to distinguish one thing from another are all symbolic representations of you. The senses, the controllers of the senses, the demigods, and the acquisition of knowledge, which is the purpose of the senses, as well as the subject matter of knowledge, all are you. The resolution of intelligence and the sharp memory of the living entity are also you. You are the egoistic principle of ignorance, which is the cause of this material world, the egoistic principle of passion, which is the cause of the senses, and the egoistic principle of goodness, which is the origin of the different controlling deities of this material world. The illusory energy, or Maya, which is the cause of the conditioned soul's perpetual transmigration from one form to another, is you. So everything is Krishna's energy, and everything is different from Krishna simultaneously. Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam. My dear Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are the original cause of all causes, exactly as the earth is the original cause of the different kinds of trees, plants, and similar varieties of manifestation. As the earth is present in everything, so you are also present throughout this material manifestation as the Supersoul. You are the supreme cause of all causes, the eternal principle. Everything, in fact, is a manifestation of your one energy. The three qualities of material nature, sattva, raja, and tamas, that means goodness, passion, ignorance, are the result, and the result of their interaction are linked up with you by your agency of yogamaya. They are supposed to be independent, but actually the total material energy rests upon you, the Supersoul. Since you are the supreme cause of everything, the interactions of the material manifestation, birth, growth, existence, transformation, deterioration, annihilation, are all absent in you. Your supreme energy, Yogamaya, is acting in variegated manifestations, but because Yogamaya is your energy, you are therefore present in everything. In the Bhagavad Gita, this fact is very nicely explained in the 9th chapter, wherein the Lord says, in my impersonal form, I am spread all over the material energy. Mayatamidam sarvam jagadavyakta mortina matstani stani abhutane nahamte shravastata. Everything is resting in me, but I'm not there. This very statement is also given by Vasudeva. To say that the Lord is not present everywhere means he is aloof from everything, although his energy is acting everywhere. This can be understood by a crude example. In the big establishment, the energy, or the organization of the supreme boss, is working in every nook and corner of the business, but that does not mean the original proprietor is present there. Although in every department the presence of the proprietor is felt by the workers, the physical presence of the proprietor in every department is a formality only. Actually, his energy is working everywhere. Similarly, the omnipresence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is felt in the action of his energies. Therefore, the philosophy of an inconceivable simultaneous oneness with and difference from the Supreme Lord is confirmed everywhere. The Lord is one, but his energies are diverse. There's many examples, like the sun and the sunshine, and there's the entity, the presiding deity of the sun. I think everyone's familiar with that. Vasudeva said, this material world is like a great flowing river, and its waves are the three modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. In other words, material energy is endlessly mutable. It's always changing. You can't step into the same river twice. This material body, as well as the senses, the faculties of thinking, feeling, willing, and the stages of distress, happiness, attachment, and lust, are all different products of these three qualities of nature. The foolish person who cannot realize your transcendental identity above all these material reactions continues in the entanglement of fruitive activity and is subjected to the continuous process of birth and death without a chance of being freed. This is confirmed in a different way by the Lord in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. There it is said that anyone who knows the appearance and activities of the Supreme Lord Krishna is freed from the clutches of material nature and goes back home, back to Godhead. Janma karma shame davyam yo veti tatvataha tatvadeham punarjanman naitimam eti sorjana. That's the verse. Therefore, Krishna's transcendental name, form, activities, and qualities are not products of the material nature. My dear Lord, Vasudeva continued, despite all these defects of the conditioned soul, if someone somehow or other comes in contact with devotional service, he achieves the civilized human form of body with developed consciousness and thereby becomes capable of executing further progress in devotional service. And yet, illusioned by the external energy, people generally do not utilize this advantage of the human form of life. Thus, they miss the chance of eternal freedom and unnecessarily spoil the progress they have made after thousands of births. In the bodily concept of life, due to false egotism, one is attached to the offspring of the body. Oh, hold on, someone's at the door. Okay, sorry about that. That was my prasadam delivery. It was a devotee delivering prasadam, not a commercial delivery. In the bodily concept of life, due to false egotism, one is attached to the offspring of the body. And thus everyone in conditioned life is entrapped by false relationships and false affection. The whole world is moving under this false impression and suffering material bondage. I know that neither of you is my son. Both of you are the original chief and progenitor, the personality of Godhead, the Purusha, with pradhana. Pradhana is the unmanifest stage of the modes of nature and material energy. The Prakriti is the manifest material world. But you have appeared on the surface of this globe to minimize the burden of the world by killing the Kshatriya kings who are unnecessarily increasing their military strength. You have already informed me about this in the past. My dear Lord, you are the shelter of the surrendered souls, the supreme well-wisher of the meek and humble, and therefore taking shelter of your lotus feet, which alone can give one liberation from the entanglement of material existence. Interesting, you have all this stuff about lotus feet and everything like that. We were explaining this in class this morning, that lotus feet means to serve, to follow in the footsteps, follow the example, and serve. And if you meditate on Krishna's lotus feet, you automatically manifest a mood of service to Krishna. That's why it's important to start to worship Krishna from his lotus feet, because that way you'll understand your eternal nature, Jivara Swarupa Nitya Krishna Das, before you move up to the higher rasas. That's why we have the Bhagavatam starts with the lotus feet of the Lord, first canto, before you can reach the smiling face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is the 10th canto. For a long time, I have simply considered this body to be myself, and although you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I have considered you my son. My dear Lord, at the very moment when you first appeared in Kamsa's prison house, you informed me that you were the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that you had descended for the protection of the principles of religion, as well as the destruction of the unfaithful. Although unborn, you descend in every millennium to execute your mission. My dear Lord, as in the sky there are many forms appearing and disappearing, you also appear in many eternal forms and then disappear. Who therefore can understand your pastimes or the mystery of your appearance and disappearance? Our only business should be to glorify your supreme greatness. When Vasudeva was addressing his divine sons in that way, Lord Krishna and Balaram were smiling. Because they are very affectionate to their devotees, they accepted all the appreciation of Vasudeva with a kindly, smiling attitude. Krishna then confirmed all of Vasudeva's statements as follows. My dear father, whatever you may say, we are, after all, your sons. What you have said about us is certainly a highly philosophical understanding of spiritual knowledge. I accept in toto, that means totally, without exception. I accept it in total without exception. Vasudeva was in the complete perfection of life in considering Lord Krishna and Balaram to be his sons, but because the sages assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra had spoken about the Lord as the supreme cause of everything, Vasudeva simply repeated it out of his love for Krishna and Balaram. Lord Krishna did not wish to detract from his relationship with Vasudeva, his father and son. Therefore, in the very beginning of his reply, he accepted the fact that he is the eternal son of Vasudeva, and that Vasudeva is the eternal father of Krishna. After this, Lord Krishna informed his father of the spiritual identity of all living entities. Krishna's preaching. He continued, my dear father, everyone and everything, including me and my brother Balaram, as well as all the inhabitants of the city of Dwarka, and the whole cosmic manifestation are exactly as you have already explained. But all of us are also qualitatively one. That means all the jiva souls and Krishna have the same qualities, and Krishna has those qualities in, let's say, an immense or unlimited degree. In other words, same qualities, but quantitatively were different. So Lord Krishna intended for Vasudeva to see everything with the vision of a Mahabhagavad, a first-class devotee, who sees that all living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and that the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. In fact, every living entity has a spiritual identity. We do. But in contact with material nature, he becomes influenced by the material modes of nature. He becomes covered by the concept of bodily life, forgetting that his spirit soul is of the same quality as the Supreme Personality of God. This is pretty clear. We have forgotten. One mistakenly considers one individual to be different from another simply because of their material bodily comforts. Because of differences between bodies, the spirit soul appears before us differently. Lord Krishna then gave a nice example in terms of the 5 material elements. The total material elements, that is, Panchamahabhuta, sky, air, fire, water, and earth, are present in everything in the material world, whether in an earthen pot, or in a mountain, or in the trees, or in an earring. These 5 elements are present everywhere, in everything, in different proportions and quantities. A mountain is a gigantic form of the combination of these 5 elements, and a small earthen pot is made of the same elements, but in a smaller quantity. Therefore, all material items, although in different shapes and different quantities, are of the same ingredients. Same ingredients, but different proportions of each ingredient. Okay, got it. Similarly, the living entities beginning from Lord Krishna and including millions of Vishnu forms, and also the living entities in different forms from Lord Brahma down to the small ant, are all the same spiritual quality. Some are great in quantities, some are small, but qualitatively they are of the same nature. It is therefore confirmed in the Upanishads that Krishna, or the Supreme Lord, is the chief among all living entities, and that he maintains them and supplies them with all necessities of life. Nityam Nityanam, Chaitaras Chaitaranam, Eko Bahunam Yovadadati Kama. So, that's the verse. There's one supreme eternal, there's many plural eternals, and that supreme eternal is supplying the needs of all the plural eternals. Anyone who knows this philosophy is in perfect knowledge. The Vedic version, Tattvamasi, thou art the same, means not that everyone is God, but that everyone is qualitatively of the same nature as God. So this verse, Tattvamasi, is one of the favorite verses, Mahavakya, of the impersonalists. And they take it as meaning that I am the same as God, and we're all one. But actually, that's not what it means. We have the same qualities as God, but in different quantity. After hearing Krishna speak the entire philosophy of spiritual life in abbreviated summation, Vasudeva was exceedingly pleased with his son. Being thus elated, he could not speak but remained silent. In the meantime, Devaki, the mother of Lord Krishna, sat by the side of her husband. Previously, so here comes her request. Previously, she had heard that Krishna and Balaram were so kind to their teacher that they had brought back the teacher's dead son from the clutches of the superintendent of death, Yamaraj. Since she had heard of this incident, she had also been thinking of her own sons who were killed by Kamsa, and while remembering them, she was overwhelmed with grief. Out of compassion for her dead sons, Devaki appealed to Lord Krishna and Balaram thus: My dear Balaram, your very name suggests that you give all pleasure and all strength to everyone. Your unlimited potency is beyond the reach of our minds and words. And my dear Krishna, you are the master of all mystic yogis. I know that you are the master of the Prajapatis, like Brahma and his assistants, and you are the original personality of Godhead Narayan. I know for certain that you have descended to annihilate all kinds of miscreants who have been misled in the course of time. They have lost control of their minds and senses, have fallen from the quality of goodness, and have deliberately neglected the direction of the revealed scriptures by living a life of extravagance and impudence. That's pride. You have descended on this earth to minimize the burden of the world by killing such miscreant rulers. My dear Krishna, I know that Mahavishnu was lying in the causal ocean of this cosmic manifestation, and it was the source of the whole creation, is simply an expansion of your plenary portion. The creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this cosmic manifestation are effected only by your plenary portion. I therefore take shelter of you without reservation. So, remember, we talked about this. This is how you approach Krishna. You glorify him first, then you make your request. So this is what Devaki is doing. Anyway, it's very interesting. You find this again and again and again in the Vedic literatures. There's prayers of glorification, and then you say, Krishna, here's what I really want. That's why I'm glorifying you. Here's my motivation for glorifying you. I've heard that when you wanted to reward your teacher's son, Dipani Muni, and he asked you to bring back his dead son, you and Balaram immediately brought him from the custody of Yamaraj, although he had been dead for a very long time. By this act I understand you to be the supreme master of all mystic yogis. I therefore ask you to fulfill my desire in the same way. In other words, I am asking you to bring back all my sons who were killed by Kamsa. Upon your bringing them back, my heart will be content, and it will be a great pleasure for me to see them once. So Krishna is a devotee of his mother. Actually, Krishna is a devotee of his devotees. Krishna has his devotees in his heart, as we quoted from the Bhagavatam. Sadavo Hridyam Maham, Sadavunam Hridyam Twaham, Madanyat Tena Janati Naham Tebyo Managapi. Krishna says the sadhus have me in their heart, and therefore I have them in my heart. And because they do not know anyone else other than me as theirs, I do not know anyone else other than them as mine. After hearing their mother speak in this way, Lord Balaram and Krishna immediately called for the assistance of Yogamaya and started for the lower planetary system known as Sutala. That's the place of Bali Maharaj. Formerly in this incarnation of Vamana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead had been satisfied by the king of the demons, Bali Maharaj, who donated to him everything he had. Bali Maharaj was then given the whole of Sutala for his residence and kingdom. Now, when this great devotee Bali Maharaj saw that Lord Balaram and Krishna had come to his planet, he immediately merged in an ocean of happiness. As soon as he saw Lord Krishna and Balaram in his presence, he and all his family members stood up from their seats and bowed down at the lotus feet of the lords. So another point is that Lord Vamanadeva actually became the gatekeeper for Bali Maharaj's planet or location. So they must have run into Lord Vamana too, although that's not mentioned. Bali Maharaj offered Lord Krishna and Balaram the best seat he had in his possession, and when both lords were seated comfortably, he began to wash their lotus feet. He then sprinkled the water on his head and on the heads of his family members. The water used to wash the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram can purify even the greatest demigods, such as Lord Brahma. After this, Bali Maharaj brought valuable garments, ornaments, sandalwood pulp, betel nuts, lamps, and various nectarian foods, and along with his family members he worshipped the lords according to the regulative principles and offered his riches and body unto their lotus feet. King Bali was feeling such transcendental pleasure that he repeatedly grasped the Lord's lotus feet and kept them on his chest. And sometimes he put them on the top of his head. In this way he felt transcendental bliss. Tears of love and affection began to flow from his eyes, and all his bodily hairs stood on end. He began to offer prayers to the lords in a voice which choked up intermittently. My dear Lord Balaram, you were the original Anantadeva. You were so great that Anantadeva, Shesha, and other transcendental forms have originally emanated from you. And you, Lord Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, with an eternal form that is all blissful and full of complete knowledge, you are the creator of the whole world. You are the original initiator and propounder of the systems of Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. You are the Supreme Brahman, the original personality of Godhead. I therefore, with all respect, offer my obeisances unto both of you. My dear lords, it is very difficult for the living entities to see you. Yet, when you are merciful upon your devotees, are easy for them to see. As such, only out of your causeless mercy have you agreed to come here and be visible to us, who are generally influenced by the qualities of ignorance and passion. My dear Lord, we belong to the Daitya or demon category. The demons or demoniac persons, the Gandharvas, Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, Charnas, the Yakshas, the Rakshasas, the Pisachas, the ghosts, and the hobgoblins, oh my God, are by nature incapable of worshipping you or becoming your devotees. Instead of becoming your devotees, they are simply impediments on the path of devotion. But you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, representing all the Vedas and are situated in the mode of uncontaminated goodness. Your position is always transcendental, and for this reason, some of us, although born in the modes of passion and ignorance, have taken shelter of your lotus feet and have become devotees. Some of us are actually pure devotees, and some of us have taken shelter of your lotus feet because we desire to gain something from devotion. Honesty. By your causeless mercy, only are we demons in direct contact with your personality. This contact is not possible even for the great demigods. No one knows how you act through your Yogamaya potency. Even demigods cannot calculate the expanse of your activities, of your internal potency. How is it possible for us to know it? I therefore place my humble prayers before you. Please be kind to me, who am fully surrendered to you, and favor me with your causeless mercy, that I may simply remember you, your lotus feet, birth after birth. My only ambition is that I may live alone just like the Paramahamsas, and travel alone here and there in great peace of mind, depending simply upon your lotus feet. I also desire that if I have to associate with anyone, I may associate only with your pure devotees and no one else, for your pure devotees are always well-wishers of all living entities. So remember, he glorified Krishna, then makes a request for pure devotional service. My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Master and Director of the whole world. Please therefore engage me in your service and let me thus become freed from all material contaminations. You can purify me in that way because if someone engages yourself in the loving service of your lordship, he is immediately freed from all kinds of regulative principles enjoined in the Vedas. The word Paramahamsa mentioned here means the supreme swan. It is said that the swan can draw milk from a mixture of milk and water. It can take only the milk portion and reject the watery portion. Similarly, a person who can draw out the spiritual portion from this material world and who can live alone, depending only on the Supreme Spirit, not on the material world, is called Paramahamsa. When one achieves the Paramahamsa platform, he is no longer under the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions. A Paramahamsa accepts only the association of pure devotees and rejects others who are too much materially addicted. In other words, those who are materially addicted cannot understand the value of the Paramahamsa, but those who are fortunate, who are advanced in a spiritual sense, take shelter of the Paramahamsa and successfully complete the mission of human life. After Lord Krishna heard the prayers of Bali Maharaj, he spoke as follows: My dear king of the demons, in the millennium of Swayambhu Vamana, the Prajapati known as Marichi begot 6 sons, all demigods, in the womb of his wife Urna. Once upon a time, Lord Brahma became captivated. Here's the story of the 6 sons of Devaki that got killed, the Shadgarbhas. Once upon a time, Lord Brahma became captivated by the beauty of his daughter and was following her, impelled by sex desire. At that time, the 6 demigods looked at the action of Lord Brahma with abhorrence. This criticism of Brahma's action by the demigods constituted a great offense on their part, and for this reason they were condemned to take birth as the sons of the demon Hiranyakashipu. These sons of Hiranyakashipu were thereafter put into the womb of Mother Devaki, and as soon as they took their birth, Kamsa killed them one after another, because they were actually cursed by Hiranyakashipu because they had worshipped Lord Brahma without his permission. They were cursed to actually be killed by their father Kamsa. My dear king of the demons, Mother Devaki is very anxious to see these 6 dead sons again, and she's very much aggrieved on account of their early death at the hand of Kamsa. I know that all of them are living with you. I've decided to take them with me to pacify my mother Devaki. After seeing my mother, all 6 of these conditioned souls will be liberated, and thus in great pleasure they will be transferred to their original planet. The names of these 6 conditioned souls are as follows: Smara, Udkita, Parishwanga, Patanga, Pudrapurit, and Grini. They will be reinstated in their former position as demigods. After thus informing the king of the demons, Krishna stopped speaking, and Bali Maharaj understood the Lord's purpose. He duly worshipped the Lord, and thereafter Lord Krishna and Balaram took away the 6 conditioned souls and returned to the city of Dwarka, where Lord Krishna presented them as little babies before his mother Devaki. Mother Devaki was overwhelmed with joy and was so ecstatic at motherly feeling that milk immediately began to flow from her breasts, and she fed the babies with great satisfaction. She took them on her lap again and again, smelling their heads and thinking, "I've gotten my lost children back." For the time being, she was overpowered by the energy of Vishnu, and in great motherly affection she enjoyed the company of her lost children. The milk from the breast of Devaki was transcendental nectar because the same milk had been sucked by Lord Krishna. As such, the babies who sucked the breasts of Devaki, which had touched the body of Lord Krishna, immediately became self-realized persons. The babies therefore began to offer their obeisances unto Lord Krishna, Balaram, their father Vasudeva, and their mother Devaki. After this, they were immediately transferred to their respective heavenly planets. In other words, because they took prasadam, the prasadam remnants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then they became liberated or became completely Krishna conscious, and that's the benefit of prasadam. And we should see that the foodstuffs that are offered to the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they actually were touched by Krishna, just like the milk that Devaki was feeding to the Shadgarbhas, the 6 children who had been killed and brought back to life. After they departed, Devaki was stunned with wonder that her dead children had come back and again been transferred to the respective planets. She could adjust the events only by thinking that Lord Krishna can perform anything wonderful in his pastimes because his potencies are all inconceivable. Without accepting the inconceivable, unlimited pastimes, potencies of the Lord, one cannot understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Soul. In other words, Krishna can do everything. There's no question of impossible for Krishna. By his unlimited potencies, he performs unlimited pastimes, and no one can describe them in full, nor can anyone know them all. Suta Goswami, speaking Srimad Bhagavatam before the sages at Naimisharanya, headed by Shonaka Rishi, gave his verdict in this connection. Great sages, please understand that the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna are all eternal. They are not ordinary narrations of historical events. Such narrations are identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Anyone, therefore, who hears such narrations of the Lord's pastimes is immediately freed from the contamination of material existence, and those who are pure devotees enjoy these narrations as nectar entering into their ears. Such narrations were spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, the exalted son of Vyasadeva, and anyone who hears them, as well as anyone who repeats them for the hearing of others, becomes Krishna conscious, and only the Krishna conscious persons are eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 85th chapter of Krishna's spiritual instruction for Vasudeva and the return of 6 dead sons of Devaki by Lord Krishna. So, in other words, this story is being told by Suta Goswami to the sages at Naimisharanya. The sages at Naimisharanya are headed up by Shonaka Rishi, and anyway, that's how the story goes. And of course, Suta Goswami had heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami, who was speaking to Maharaj Pariksit. Shukadeva Goswami had heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from his father, Srila Vyasadeva. Srila Vyasadeva was enlightened by his guru, Narada Muni. So Narada Muni was enlightened by his guru, Lord Brahma. Anyway, so we have time for questions. Let us stop sharing right now, and then we will allow you all to ask questions. Let me unmute everybody, or allow you to unmute yourselves. So, you can raise your hand, or you could unmute yourself, or you can type in the text window if you have a question or something you want to know about. Does anyone have a question? Oh, here's a question. Whoops. This is a nice question about prasadam. Okay. When we realize and think prasadam is the same as Krishna, I sometimes feel sad when someone criticizes it as tasteless or describe it materially. how should we internally pacify ourselves in these situations? I mean, and sometimes someone will say something about prasadam because they're upset that something uh, that was really not nice was offered to Krishna. It depends on the person's mood. If someone criticized prasadam just because their own individual tastes, or it doesn't have enough salt. I mean, sometimes people just have all these crazy individual tastes. For example, in a country known as Fiji, which you may have heard of, they often put so much salt into the prasadam that I say to them, of course, I don't eat what they cook with the salt. Obviously, I don't take salt. That I say to them, uh, would you like to put some vegetables in your salt preparation? So sometimes it's like that. So it's better not to put as much salt so people can put salt later. And you actually offer salt on the altar to the deities. There should be a salt and pepper shaker on the deity plate so the deities can add that. But basically, it depends on one's motive. If one's motive is to, uh, let's say, increase the quality of the prasadam, quality of boga offered to Krishna, then that's not offensive. They're just doing this out of concern. And I do that sometimes. I said, you got to make better, blank blank. I don't want to give any hints about what I was talking about, what types of preparation. I said this, and Prabhupada would sometimes say this is, I mean, sometimes Prabhupada would say it's not fit to be offered to the animals. When Prabhupada was really upset with the quality of the prasadam. So it depends on someone's motivation. Obviously, unless someone is motivated by trying to increase the quality and they're speaking to the right person to increase the quality, it's not that we should say this in public. For example, if I know that something's not prepared properly, it doesn't have the proper taste, I'm not going to go on the internet and say that so and so prepared food and it was bad. I will not do that. I will actually talk to them directly, and sometimes they're so touchy you can't talk to them directly. Sometimes they'll just like, if you say, you have to be tiptoe around certain things. Sometimes you say, would you like to see me cook today? Would you like to see me make this preparation or make that preparation? And that's a way to present things rather than saying, that was really bad. So you have to be careful. It's actually important to be really careful when you're presenting these things to people. So that's a very, very good question because we don't want to offend devotees, we don't want to offend prasadam. All right, I think Pran Govinda has a question. His little hand is raised.
Hey Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all goes to you.
Haribol.
Very, I like the way you presented to have a darshan of the Lord began with the lotus feet. And I don't know if it is written there or you added. It's so nice. I never really thought about it. You said service attitude began with lotus feet. This is so complete. I don't know. It was like very attractive to me.
Yeah, because if you meditate on the Lord's lotus feet, you automatically want to serve. And if you're not qualified and you meditate in the Lord's face, you'll think, oh, it's so beautiful, but there's no service mood. It's just you want to enjoy.
Yes, yes.
But feet, naturally, we talk about following in the footsteps, etc., like that. And it's just as a natural psychological, emotional response to looking at Krishna's feet that what can I do for Krishna? Naturally. So that's
that like Sri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grajyam indriyai.
Seva Mukhe Jivado.
Yes. Without service attitude, there is no actually proper perception of the Lord.
And then all the rasas, as you go higher in the rasas to the conjugal ras, then your service attitude gets further enhanced.
Yes.
So in the conjugal ras, it's the topmost service attitude because the gopis are willing to go to hell to cure Krishna's headache. So service actually becomes more enhanced the more, let's say, you go up through the rasas. Okay. All right.
I really appreciate Maharaj the way you presented. That was really striking. I whole life I hope I can retain my heart.
All right. then you have to manage New Orleans for the rest of your life. Anyway, so
I'm your servant, Maharaj. Whatever you order me, I'm ready to
all right,
carry.
we'll see you tomorrow in New Orleans, right?
Okay.
That's good. Okay, I think Jagat has unmute. Do you have some question, Jagat?
Yes, sure, good. The six sons of Devaki were said to represent lust, anger, greed, and so forth.
Yeah.
Six artists. So, what does that metaphor mean in the context of this chapter? Did Krishna revive those anartas, or what?
Did he revive the anartas? Did he get
But
rid of? It means that Krishna gets rid of the anartas if we approach him. I mean, that's what it means. I mean, that's the metaphorical. Of course, it actually happened. It's not that it's just a metaphor that Krishna brought back the six dead sons, but they represent. That's according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That Krishna gets rid of the anarthas and purifies us of the anarthas when we take prasadam and follow the process of devotional service. Sometimes it's described that they were Hiranyakashipu's grandsons. The Bhagavatam. That sometimes the Aryas, they were grandsons of Hiranyakashipu, and they worshipped Lord Brahma without permission from Hiranyakashipu, and that's why. And they were sons of Kalanemi, in other words. And that's why they got cursed to be killed by their father, Kalanemi, who later on became Kamsa. I mean, that's how I've generally understood this particular thing. So, but in the Krishna Prabhupada says sons, but actually some of the acharyas say grandsons. Anyway,
oh, thank you.
it's the same purport. Anyway, the same understanding of purport. But they represent Kama, Krodha, Mada, Matsarya, Bharya, Bhaya, lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy,
Yeah,
fear.
Vishwanath Thakur says also grandson. They are children of Marichi, who is the product from the mind of
Yeah,
Brahmaji.
yeah, that's right. They were sons, originally sons of Marichi, but then they took birth as the sons of Kalanemi.
Yes.
So they were the grandsons of Hiranyakashipu, or rather, sons of Hiranyakashipu. Okay, so now we got a question from Shama Priya. You have a question? You unmuted yourself, or maybe that was by accident. Okay,
Sorry. Yeah, it was by accident. I'm driving and my phone fell down.
okay,
Sorry.
okay, no problem.
Okay.
So who else? Krishna Keshava has a question.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev, Dandavat Pranams.
Haribol.
So Gurudev, so you're talking about prasadam. So however, there are some situations where, we may have to eat outside like a vegan restaurant, for work or traveling sometimes, Gurudev. What is the best way? I know we're not supposed to, have prasadam, food outside. So in those scenarios, what is the best way we actually...
You want to know what I do?
Yes, Gurudev.
I travel with a rice cooker.
Okay.
And I either have the bogle with me or I go to the supermarket. And then I cook something in the rice cooker. I mean, I spend weeks doing that sometimes when I'm traveling, if I don't go to someone's house. So I personally don't eat at restaurants, but anyway, sometimes if you find yourself doing that, just beg for forgiveness. But actually, I have absolutely no taste for eating food that's cooked by anyone else other than devotees. I can't even eat it.
Yes.
I mean, I find it impossible. I mean, someone offers me potato chips because I don't take salt. I find it impossible just to eat it. It has no taste to me, unless the person who cooked it is a devotee and has good consciousness.
Is it okay to eat fruit, Gurudev? Like
Yeah,
maybe-
fruit is all right. Fruit is always all right.
Okay.
Krishna's cooking it.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a rice cooker or one of these portable cookers,
Yes, Gurudev.
and it's pretty easy, but you have to eat simply. I mean, if you expect a 10-course thali, it's not going to happen in your hotel room.
Yeah. Okay, Gurudev. Thank you, Gurudev.
Yeah, and basically it should be a khichdi, a mixture of different things. And it's pretty easy. I mean, I do it all the time. And sometimes if I don't have that, I'll eat raw. Just raw food. I'll go and get whatever from the supermarket. But that's pretty austere. I can't expect everyone to do what I do. Anyway, do the needful. Don't take it as an instruction for me, because some people, they need different tastes in order just to be alive. So be practical. Okay, any other questions? I think the rest of my dinner just got here. So we should end here because the devotee is just delivering the dinner. And hopefully we'll see everybody tomorrow. If not, it'll be Rath Yatra in New Orleans, and I'll probably just post some things on Facebook for the Rath Yatra in New Orleans. Hopefully it doesn't rain too much. And so I may not have a class tomorrow, and maybe not the next day. We'll have to see, because Sunday we have a program at the temple. And, I'll send out notices when I'm online. Okay, on that happy note, see everybody later. All glories to Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki